LSU's baseball game today has been moved to 4 p.m. due to weather here in Baton Rouge. The number 2, LSU, has no problem with North Dakota State as they won last night by 5 runs. LSU initially fell behind as North Dakota State took an early 1-0 lead. LSU's offense ignited in the second inning with Hayden Travinski's leadoff double set the stage for Brady Neal's crucial hit-by-pitch, ultimately leading to a tying run and then taking the lead for the night. Cade Anderson started on the mound, pitching 2.2 innings and allowing only 1 run on 3 hits and a walk. LSU's pitching staff tallied 10 strikeouts and limited North Dakota State to just 1 extra base hit. Neal stood out for LSU with a stellar performance, contributing 2 RBI while going 3 for 3 at the plate and even getting hit by a pitch. Jared Jones added to the offensive display with a home run in the 3rd inning, part of LSU's 9-hit total for the night. LSU strategically managed their pitching rotation, showing off its depth by Anderson being replaced by Fidel Ulloa in the 3rd inning, possibly to preserve Anderson's availability for the upcoming matchup against Mississippi State this weekend. This is Camryn Conner, and for today's episode, I'll be bringing on former LSU baseball great Todd Walker, along with the news and sports director of the Louisiana Radio Network, Jeff Palermo, and the editor of Tiger Rag, Todd Horn. And then you'll be hearing from the voice of the Lady Tigers, Patrick Wright, with Jeff and Todd to talk about the only undefeated softball team in the nation, the LSU softball team.
I think that most people that contact the 9-Day Lifeline are looking to be heard and to feel seen.
Anybody that calls here to talk about anything that has them upset, we will talk to them.
Even on our chat and text services, you will be actually chatting and texting with a real person.
We have enough resources to be able to help people in any type of situation.
We have helpline specialists that are trained to handle the variety of calls that we get.
It's a very laid-back thing. We're not judging anybody. We're just a listening ear that some people don't have.
It's now time to bring in LSU, former LSU great, current, he's always great. Todd Walker joins us here into the LSU Hall of Fame. Of course, his jersey retired at Alec Bach Skip Bertman Field. Todd, thanks a lot for joining us. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing well. This is an exciting time right before the start of SEC play. Got a couple of LSU questions for you. Then we want to dive into your thoughts on the league itself. First of all, LSU starting pitching has just been on a remarkable run right now. This is the kind of run you actually want to see once you get into May and June in the postseason, but it's still been a lot of fun to watch at the moment. What do you make out of the fact I've been covering LSU baseball nearly about 25 years now, and there's always so much angst. They don't got a Sunday starter. They barely got even a Saturday starter. And here they got 4 guys that could go out there and just absolutely shove.
Yeah, that's right. And 3 of them are lefties.
Yeah, right.
Which I love because, as you know, lefties hold runners. And generally, the other team, their best hitter is a left-handed hitter. He neutralizes the bats on the other side. They may catch up to Cade Anderson, young kid throwing 80% fastballs. Eventually they're gonna catch on to that. But the kid's been dealing in the moxie that these freshmen have had, with Anderson and Milam and, Jake Brown on down the list. Because I kind of wrote off the young kids nowadays with the NIL and the transfer portal and everything going on. It's hard to get on the field as a freshman, but these guys are getting it done.
Todd, are you concerned about, Milam has obviously, like he said, been great. He's leading the team and with his, I think it's a 389 batting average right now. If he's not still leading, he's very close to the top. He's been leading them all season. But when you start to get into SEC play this weekend, is it going to kind of level out a little bit more than likely?
Well, he's 50 points higher than the next guy, Hayden Travinski, so he's leading the team by a lot. And isn't that cool that a freshman jumps in and does that? Because all we ever heard about was they were going to move Josh Pearson to second base, and that's an offensive move. But clearly Jay Johnson understands that, first of all, the right side of the infield is not that difficult. And also if you give up an error here or there but have an offensive guy at that position, wow, what a difference that can make. But Stephen Milam kind of, pushed Pearson out of that position, and now he's solved the question mark that they had on the right side. So I can't answer that, man. I mean, this kid, like I said, I mean, these kids come in with a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
The last time a kid from New Mexico played at LSU,
Alec Bergsman.
he was a superstar. That's right. So, I mean, how are you gonna say that Stephen Milam's going to struggle? Now he will at some point because every baseball player struggles. And you talk about the SEC schedule LSU has. I know you guys have looked at it already, but my God Almighty.
Yeah.
Mississippi State's going to be better than they were last year. Then they got Florida at home, then at Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Tennessee. The first 5 weeks are ridiculously tough. And so the good thing for Jay Johnson, he's played a lot of guys. They've all got a little of experience out on the field. And, so they're not going to be shell-shocked. But you're definitely going to face some arms for sure.
Wanted to ask you about in the outfield there, Todd, with the struggles. Paxton Kling, hitting just 255. Bingham is at 262. Josh Pearson's still not swinging the bat where he would like to at 220. It seems like they're searching for answers there in the outfield. In fact, Brady Neal is actually getting a start tonight in I think it's right field tonight. What's your thoughts on, I think Paxton Kling's the key to that because in my mind, I think he's their best defensive outfielder. I know Bingham's pretty good, but Kling can really cover some ground. And I think it's important for that guy, especially since they've been batting him at the top of the batting order, for him to really have a good season for this offense to go.
Well, the good news is they've played great defensively. They've only made 11 errors. They're
right.
at 98% this year, so they've done great. But you make no mistake, like I just said, Jay Johnson's an offensive guy. He's not going to put a dude out in the outfield just because he can run them down. He's going to put 3 studs that can hit out there. And to your point, I didn't know that, but that's a great move. Put Brady Neal out there. He's hitting 317. I mean, put that kid out there and let's see what he can do.
Yeah.
Center field, you might need to have somebody because they've got such a strong offense, 1 through 9 in the lineup, that you can afford to put some defenders in there, like Braswell at short. He's not going to hit you a lot, but he can play the position. So you can afford to put a couple guys in there, but not all 3. I mean, you got to have some offense out there. Even if you throw Travinsky out there, they're going to do something like that to create more of an offense. So that's going to be the answer to your question. You can book it. You're going to see some weird moves in the outfield if Paxton Kling doesn't get it going. But he's been crazy, right? I mean, he started off real slow, and then last week he was leading the team.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now he's hit another roller coaster downhill. So he's been real streaky through his 47 at bats so far. I think he'll pick it up and be fine where they can use him. But I think they'll put some offense on the corners for sure. And then even if Paxton Kling doesn't hit, stick him in center field, let him run him down.
So they've got Milazzo, Travinsky, and Neal in the starting lineup tonight.
Well, and Milazzo,
like I said, offense, man.
Yeah.
It's all offense.
And you got Milazzo hitting over 400. I mean, that's I don't know how long that's going to last, but man, that's just Lanyap there.
Yeah, he's got 17 at bats, but he's got. I mean, he's a graduate. I mean, by now he's got a lot of confidence. I mean, we know he can defend, and when it's going to be a defensive matchup, when Jay sees that, in other words, the other team has a starter up against Luke Holman, for example. Milazzo will probably catch on those SEC weekends, for example. And yeah, I mean, if the fact that he's got a little bit of confidence right now, hitting the way he is a bonus.
Hated to see that injury to Ethan Fry, and I know it's not a significant injury, but he gets the big RBI pinch hit single or double against Southeastern. Can't remember what it was. It might have been a double. And then he had a couple hits. He gets the start on Saturday. He's got a couple hits, and then he gets hurt. I mean, maybe it's Ethan Fry as a potential answer in the outfield.
Yeah, if he gets back, I don't think it's anything serious. So, yeah, I mean, but here's the good news, and we talked about this last year. Jay Johnson has big leaguers sitting the bench. That was Jared Jones last year, and now all of a sudden he's playing. He's got 5 jacks this year. That's going to be the case this year. I mean, he just pick and choose, and I love what Jay's been doing up to this point. I mean, shoot, he's what is it, like 20 guys have seen the field already this year.
It's crazy.
So, like I said, I mean, yeah, you get a chance to find out who's hot and who's not, and he's going to keep doing it throughout. Even into the SEC schedule, we're not too far removed from when Ole Miss didn't have a clue what they were doing in the SEC. They were 6-14 through 20 games, and all of a sudden they throw Dylan DeLucia and Hunter Elliott in the starting rotation, and they win the national championship. So this thing's far from over in terms of figuring it out, what to do with who. But the beautiful thing and what we're talking about here is Jay Johnson's got a lot of options.
Well, so before we start talking about the SEC in depth or a little bit more in depth, I just wanted to ask you: are you at all concerned about Tommy White's performance right now? You know, he didn't swing a bat for 6 months, and now he's started out slower than we were used to from last year. What's your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's suffering by comparison, right? So now Dylan Cruz did what he did last year, and all of a sudden he's gone. So now Tommy White has to hit 500, right? It ain't that easy, you know. And the answer is I'm not concerned at all about Tommy White. My junior year, my draft year, I hit 22 home runs the year before, and I was sitting on about 6 or 7 home runs through most of the year.
Yeah.
You know, and I had the same questions with me. And then I got hot. I got hot at the end, ended up with 18. So I think that's what you're going to see from Tommy White. Once he gets far removed from all the pressures of the early season and carrying the load that Dylan Cruz left behind and being the man and getting drafted and all this money, saw the $10 million getting thrown at Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeen. So, you know, of course, you know, that's going to affect you, right?
Yeah.
You're a kid. And so he'll come around. You play too many games in baseball that you eventually relax, you know, and then you're able to do your thing.
I really think once the warm weather arrives, Todd, he's going to be hitting them out of the park, and he'll be the Tommy Tanks that we know.
Todd, you talked about Florida earlier, but they've lost 5 before the preseason, or the SEC season starts. Are you concerned about them, or what's going on with them?
Nah, I don't think so. Jack Caglione is going to be the best player in the country. I mean, he's got a sub-2 ERA, hit 5 home runs, hitting 4 something, and they've got a good supporting cast around them. Keep in mind, Kevin O'Sullivan won the only national championship for Florida back in 2017. The guy really can coach and knows what he's doing. And you know, when you ask me if I'm concerned about any SEC school, I'm going to tell you no, maybe Missouri. But outside of that, you know, I'm not ever concerned about, any SEC school. And keep in mind, you guys know this. 5 of the last 6 national championships have come from the SEC, and it should have been all 6 except for 2018. Of course, Nate Yeske loves that because he was at Oregon State when they beat Arkansas, and by 5 different schools. So SEC is going to dominate until they change the transfer rule. Everybody in the country wants to play in the SEC. And if you can fly around the country like Southwest without penalty, then, man, the SEC is going to be strong every year.
So is it probably just Sullivan doing a lot of feeling out with his lineup, similar to what Jay's probably doing right now? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I think you could call it that. I mean, they've got some really good hitters. I mean, they're hitting over 300 as a team, 32 home runs already. The question mark is always the pitching for Florida. You know, they kind of come and go, but like I said, Jack Caglione is going to be right there in the middle. They got a kid, Ryan Slater, they can deal out of the bullpen, and they're trying to fill out their starters. You know, the starters haven't been great. But I'm a big believer in Kevin O'Sullivan, and Florida's always going to be tough. So
if you had to pick the SEC teams making it to the College World Series right now, are you going to leave Arkansas out of that?
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. I almost got, I don't know the word. That was a tough one to call, Here's the deal. 2 things. One is I was a little tough for right reasons. It's hard to put LSU on top because of the pitching situation last year. And what they pulled off last year, and they even lost a game to Wake in Omaha and came through the losers bracket with the staff in the way that they were. But the step ups by Nate and by the guys in that bullpen. I mean, Gavin Guidry and just incredible. Our boy Thatcher Hurd, what they pulled off last year. This year they're in a better shape. Tom Kelly always used to come to me and said, "Hey man, I want to be able to put your name in pen in the lineup. I don't want to be, erasing and writing. I want you to do it for me." And I feel like that's the same way when I every week when I fill out these polls. LSU's by far, to me, number 1 in the country, and that's not going to change. I got them in pen. So like you just mentioned, Wake's going to get beat here and there. They're going to be right there at the end. But I mean, Tennessee's only lost 1 game this year. A&M hadn't lost at all.
Right.
Alabama's 15-1, but that might be smoke and mirrors a little bit. I initially looked at the SEC sports website and I had the basketball pulled up and it said Missouri 0-18. I'm like, whoa! I thought that was baseball, but they're not that far. They're not that far.
Yeah.
They're 8-8, Missouri. So,
that's still ugly.
But yeah, I know. But for the most part, I mean, the SEC is it's gonna dominate. And look, for Arkansas, I mean, this year they're pretty stacked. I mean, and they're top five for a reason. That lefty they've got up there, I'm drawing a blank right now. What's his name?
Hagen
Smith. Yeah, Hagen can beat anybody in the country. I mean, when he's on the mound, he can beat anybody in the country, and that's what you need in order to say somebody's got a real chance to win the national championship, like Paul Skeens last year. So
right.
Arkansas is for real this year.
What about Mississippi State? They have been kind of wandering in the wilderness here the last 2 seasons, Todd, but they've won 9 in a row, and they're playing South Alabama tonight. They got UNO on Wednesday before taking on the Tigers. What kind of test will they give LSU this weekend?
Same deal. Like Lamonis, they ought to have already built a statue out front. He won the first national championship in any sport for Mississippi State. And that's saying a lot coming from Ron Polk era, when they had, Rafael Palmeiro, Will Clark, all these great players throughout the history of Mississippi State. And the only national championship came a few years ago from Lamonis. So, again, big believer in him. They've had a hard time with the injuries, man. I mean, Landon Sims, you remember how great he was after the national championship. Then he comes back and he's just hurt, can't do anything. They don't hit particularly well, but I think that they've got some arms that can get it done. And again, like I said, when you're in the SEC, and especially when you're playing LSU, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, how people step up?
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the schedule because these guys are tough.
Should be a fun weekend in Starkville. Hopefully the weather cooperates. Todd, always great talking with you. We'll catch up with you here soon.
The East Baton Rouge Library says this is the year to invest in you. The library brings value by connecting you to information, resources, materials, technology, and experiences. We make a positive difference in your life. All you need is your library card. Stop by one of our 14 locations, open 7 days a week, or find us online at ebrpl.com.
LSU's having a great start to baseball and softball season. The baseball team will be opening up SEC play this weekend, playing in Starkville, Mississippi, as they open up the season against Mississippi State. The Lady Tigers will be in Tiger Park all weekend long against Ole Miss. Tuesday afternoon, Beth Torina and her Tigers remained the only softball team to be unbeaten as they hooked the horns and beat Texas 7-4. After this commercial, you'll be getting all the insight on Beth Torina, and as Todd Horn says, what sauce she has going on with Patrick Wright and Jeff.
Joining us now, it's the voice of the Lady Tigers, and man, there is a lot to talk about when it comes to not just LSU women's basketball, but how about LSU softball? Now 23-0 after beating Texas on Tuesday, 7-4. The Longhorns went into the game with just 2 losses, ranked number 3 in the country. LSU ranked number 2, still the only undefeated team, or they are the only undefeated team left in the country. And all LSU does today, Patrick, is put up a 5 spot in the first inning to show who's boss in front of a bunch of elementary kids. But fun game today at Tiger Park, wasn't it?
Oh, it was great. The deal, and a lot of questions were asked, why 11 a.m. on Tuesday? Texas had come to LSU to schedule this game because they were in Houston over the weekend as part of the Big 12, and Texas wanted to come play us, but wanted to do it early in the day because they were going to bus back to Austin, and they've got a Big 12 series with BYU starting Thursday. And we agreed to it. Coach said, yeah, bring them on. And decided, LSU said, hey, let's kind of make a field trip game out of it. And there were a lot, like the basketball, a lot of elementary kids there. A lot of our season ticket holders and general fans showed up and got out of the first inning without any trouble, and then put together a 5-run bottom of the first, knocked their ace pitcher out of the game, and withstood a little bit of a Texas rally. They're a team that was hitting almost 400 on the season coming in. You knew they would put up a few runs. And then Sidney Berzon just absolutely shut them down the last 3. And they just keep piling on the wins. 3 at Kentucky, which they hadn't done in almost 15 years, and then to get a big top 3 win today. A lot of people got to start believing now. This is a team that is equipped to make a run.
Patrick, you mentioned, obviously they look like they're for real this year. They've had other years in the recent couple, I would say, where they started out strong and then sort of faded. But this is different. There's a different sauce going on here. What is Beth Torino's secret sauce in this team?
Experience. She's got a good core group of some kids who have been in the program 4 and in a couple of cases 5 years. This is kind of the end of the COVID year, deal where you get that extra year. Without the COVID year, we wouldn't have Taylor Pleasance, wouldn't have Raylene Gutierrez, wouldn't have Sierra Briggs. So to have all those kids who have stayed within this program for that long, and they're very talented, and they've gotten better each year. And in this winning streak, there have been a couple of games where they were in a little peril toward the end of the game. But the veterans, Allie Newland's another one, kids that they just know how to win games. Win games maybe when they don't play their best. And that's it. And Sydney Berzon, a freshman All-American, I think is even better this year. She's that ace you need. And they've developed, Kelly Lynch from Washington has had some good starts. And Raylan Chafin is pitching her best ball right now. So experience and deep pitching, and that'll take you a long way.
Is it similar to baseball, men's baseball, when you get into the SEC slate, which they're in right now, I guess, where you go with a rotation, or are you inclined to see Berzon pitch 2 or 3 games in a row?
Well, I think you're going to see her always pitch. In Kentucky, she pitched the first game and then was available for relief. She didn't pitch Saturday and then finished off the game Sunday. And what Beth does, she goes with kind of the hot hand. She goes with matchups. If she doesn't like to expose her pitcher, since she's got 3 good ones, she doesn't like to expose one too much. So I think she takes it week by week. I think you'll always see Berzon start the first game and then kind of work its way from there during the weekend, depending on how the matchups look.
Talking to the voice of the Lady Tigers, Patrick Wright. Patrick, I was really concerned when the news broke that Danica Coffey would miss the rest of the season, but this team has not missed a beat, despite Coffey, who's been a staple at the top of the order and plays outstanding third base for him. So how are they making up for her loss?
Well, when something bad happens, you try to look at the bright side, and the bright side is that one of the freshmen, Sierra Daniel, has just really been something. She's hitting about 470 after today. She can either play, she's a second and a third baseman, but she stepped in right where Coffey was at third base, has played very good defense, and her bat, she's got a good left-handed bat. She had a triple in the game today that set up LSU's last insurance run. And for a freshman to step in for another senior who's been in for a long time and just match and even over, and Coffey was hitting a solid 400. This kid's hitting 470. I don't think that's going to keep up, but there's no drop off. And that's the bright news, is that Coffey's going to come back next year, and you're going to have Daniel getting all this experience that's going to make her better next year. So that's where you look at it. That's where they have filled in, and it's been has not been a drop off at all.
All right, let's switch topics here, Patrick. So when you were in Greenville, South Carolina, did you nearly break your ankle? Did you get a black eye? Did you need to spend a night in the hospital? What happened to you while you were there? Did you get shoved to the ground by anybody?
No, may need a mental health day after all that. It was tough to watch some of it. It was 3 very physical games. Glad we did stay out of physical harm's way. But I really was at the point, by the time Sunday rolled around, and especially after the fracas, it's like, let's just get out of town and get home in one piece and regroup and get this thing over with, win or lose against Carolina. And fortunately, I think everybody's going to ultimately be okay. Poa, with the concussion, they're hoping to get her back for tournament play. Just with concussions, you never know, but the door is open there. Angel's ankle should be fine. Michaela's foot should be fine. Anissa Moro's black eye, I think, is eventually going to heal. I mean, it was I felt like we played in the SEC football championship game over that. It was some pretty physical ball those 3 days.
Well, Patrick, speaking about Poa and the semifinal game against Ole Miss, when she goes down hard on the floor in the last 5 minutes or close to the last 5 minutes, was that one of the scariest moments for you personally in your broadcasting career for LSU? Have you ever seen anything quite like that?
I've had a few. That one will rank up toward the top. I think just off the top of my head, the one that scared me the most actually happened in 1992. when Lloyd Peaver, LSU's pitcher, got hit in the forehead by a batted ball and was down for about 15 minutes. That was the top one. Poa, though, was kind of right there because just to see her get up and try to get off the floor was a little painful, and I'm glad that they were able to kind of help her with that. But by all accounts, she's going to be fine. Just got to shake off that concussion, and for everybody, it's a little different. Some people bounce back after a few days. Some people it takes longer. So that's what the next couple of weeks, I think, are going to tell us.
Well, can you tell me one other thing, completely different subject?
Sure.
I've been racking my brain for the last 24 to 48 hours trying to figure out what in the world Kim Mulkey said wrong in her post-game interview, because I must have followed it to a T. I don't see anything wrong with it. I wrote a column on Tiger Rag that's gotten like 1 million hits and a lot of feedback. But there are real LSU fans out there that think she said something wrong. I don't see anything wrong at all with what she said.
No, I don't either. I think what she was trying to say was that, Cardoso needed to pick on somebody her own size, which I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. And I think what she was also getting at, I don't want to put words in Coach's mouth, but Cardoso injected herself into a situation that had nothing to do with her. Watkins from South Carolina came running at Flaugier, taunting. That should have been a technical foul, a taunting technical. There's clear video of it. She didn't get called for the taunting. That didn't happen. And then Flaugier gave her a little nudge, which I think any normal human being would. And then Cardoso injected herself into the situation. So the point is, I think Coach is trying to make, hey, let the two who were talking, let them battle it out. There's no need for you to come in and start shoving people, and that's which is common sense to me.
Me too.
But people are going to be offended, I find out. Like they have opinions formed on people, and they're going to project those opinions, and they have those opinions, and they're not going to change no matter what you tell them. So those are the people I try to stay away from.
Yeah, it's amazingly polarizing in nature. It's weird to me. It's something I don't quite understand, and
I'm with you.
But I put words in Mulkey's mouth too, and I said that basically what she was saying, and I probably took too much liberty here, but I bet I took it as she was saying, hey, we're ready for you. We're going to be healthy if we see you again. Hopefully we do when it matters, and it'll be a fair fight at that point.
And I agree. We'll be at 100% at that point, I would hope.
So do you my sense from watching that game, the whole tournament, was that LSU is at a different level of toughness right now, and that they actually match up exceptionally well with South Carolina. But I honestly don't believe South Carolina is going to be in the Final Four. But that's just my personal opinion. But if they do run into each other again, do you think that LSU's in the best position possible to take it to them, make it the third time a charm, so to speak?
I think so. And because the two games were close, they went right down to the end. I think if the key, you got to get Cardoso off the floor. LSU played a lot better when she was not on the floor. And LSU's got to figure out a way to slow down Malaysia Fulwiley, who just was 18 minutes and 24 points. Mm-hmm. They had no answer for her. But top to bottom, the LSU team's not going to back down from them. They're not afraid of them. The only thing they haven't done yet is beat them on the scoreboard. And that, of course, that's the only one that matters. But I think if we see them again and we're at full strength, I like our chances.
They're not going to go into this tournament as the favorite. But, heck, I know the number one seed because they'll probably be a number two. I know the number one seed does not want to see LSU as the number two seed in their bracket.
I don't think there's any team in the country that wants to run into LSU right now.
Yeah.
No, because our defense is playing as well as it has maybe since Coach Mulkey got here, and that's saying a lot. And that's amazing how far it's come, because at the beginning of the season, up until the end of January, you could very easily make the argument that the way we were playing defense was going to get us booted in the Sweet 16. But now that is a strength of this team, is how well that they're guarding. And even though they gave up 70-plus to South Carolina, I thought we defended them pretty well in that game.
Hey, Patrick, last question for you, because I know we got to run. But, sort of like a blessing in disguise from all the health issues that LSU faced during this tournament is they were able to develop some younger players. Janae Kidd comes to mind, first of all, but also there was more playing time available, more real game experience, more intense game experience. That's going to be helpful moving forward, I would think.
Well, especially with Janae Kent. I mean, Del Rosario has been getting her minutes, and we know what you can get. You can get about 10 minutes from her. She'll come in and rebound. She'll come in and score a little bit if you need a bucket or two. What Janae Kent brought, though, and the good thing for her and what Coach convinces her kids of, like, you do things for us besides score. We've got plenty of scores. Kent did a good job defensively, got a few rebounds, not down to 3, but they don't need her to score a ton of points. Just come in, hold the line, don't commit turnovers, defend, rebound, do things, and the scoring will take care of itself. So I think she will get some valuable minutes and has earned some trust from the coach. If we do get somebody in foul trouble or if we're short POA for any part of the postseason, that extra trust is there.
Patrick, thanks a lot for your time. You're a busy man at the moment, so we appreciate a few minutes with you. And, of course, we'll be talking with you as LSU softball and basketball try to go win some championships this spring.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Talk to you soon.
It's your time to move things forward. U.S. Army Reserve.
All right, that's it for today's episode. The baseball game has been moved to 4 p.m. today in Alex Box Stadium, and that'll be broadcast on the SEC Network. Stay tuned to TigerRag.com for more LSU updates. Be sure to check out our special Audibles podcast with Billy Embody, Jeff Palermo, and Todd Horn on LSU's big football recruiting weekend.